Welcome back to First Things First. Undisputed is coming up right after this. Joy, we have to stop meeting like this. I hope you had a great weekend. What are you and the guys talking about today?
Good morning, Jenna. Hope you had a good weekend, too. Coming up on Undisputed, Steph Curry is hurt. Kyrie Irving is hurt. So did LeBron's road to a championship just get a lot easier? And will the Giants put Odell Beckham on the trading block? We'll discuss all of that. Plus, Jason Terry of the Milwaukee Bucks is live in studio with us. Undisputed is coming up next. Jenna, back to you guys.
All right, Joy, thank you so much. Speaking of Odell Beckham Jr., team owner John Mara for the Giants opened up for the first time since a video of Odell was leaked a few weeks ago showing him with what appeared to be an illicit substance. Mara expressed disappointment in Beckham, saying he's, quote, tired of answering questions about Odell's behavior. And while the Giants aren't shopping Odell per se, Mara added that, quote, no one is untouchable. And now a new twist this morning. According to reports, Odell won't play this season unless he has a new deal. So, Nick, let me ask you, should the Giants give in to Odell's demands and give him the long-term deal that he wants?
Listen, before this report came out, when we were first discussing these comments this morning, the comments being John Mara's, before we knew what Ian Rappaport was reporting, I said, you either trade him or you sign him to a long-term deal. What you don't do is stand pat. What you don't do is have a player who's clearly emotional, who has clearly outperformed his contract, who got injured on a contract paying him about 10% of what his actual value was, and then tell him, come back here with no long-term security. That is a recipe for disaster. What I also don't think you do, though, if you are uncomfortable paying the player, is ignore the possibility of trading the player. If you've got to have a discussion, John Mara, Dave Gettleman, Pat Shurmur together. What do we think the Giants in 2018 can be? What do we think the Giants in 2021 can be? Because if the answer is we want to start the difficult process of rebuilding, but we want to jumpstart it, then draft a quarterback at number 2. Let the world know Odell's up for, is open for business as far as being able to trade him. And Eli as well. Like, you could really try to jumpstart this whole thing to skip maybe a step in the rebuilding process. Or, if you want to compete this year, if you want to compete for a championship this year, theoretically, as they thought they would last year, then you got to bring Odell in my eyes, and say, listen, we're going to give you the deal you want. Kind of. The money will be there. Everything you've said you wanted about being the highest paid receiver in football, we'll give you all that. But there will be stipulations. There will be clauses as far as if you fail a drug test or if you're suspended due to the drug policy, it voids these guarantees. We have to put some protections in it for ourselves. In my eyes, that's a difficult conversation. I'm sorry, that's a difficult contract for Odell to turn down. It's difficult if you're Odell Beckham. It'd be one thing if they say it's going to be incentive-based and then injuries can cost you the money. But if you say, listen, we are giving you everything you wanted, as long as you don't get in trouble, as long as you don't get suspended, as long as you're not smoking weed. I don't know how Odell could turn that one down. Because they do have the hammer of, we'll trade you to a team that has no loyalty to you. They'll pay you $8.5 million. They'll franchise you 1 or 2 years. And then where are you at? Like, that's the way I would do this. I would give him the contract. I would put those clauses in the contract. But if you're not giving him the contract, Chris Broussard, I would trade him before I'd have him hold out a training camp.
See, I don't think trading him means you have to rebuild. I feel like when Odell Beckham was at his best, you were 6-10. The first 2 years. Last year, the 11-5 year, you had a good year. But a wide receiver is replaceable. You don't have to have a tremendous wide receiver to be a good team. We saw that in the playoffs this year. The Final Four, none of them had tremendous wide receivers.
The best receiver in the Final Four is probably Adam Thielen. Right?
Okay.
No, but that's your point.
Diggs, his teammate there, but
the Jags don't have a star. The Patriots don't have a star.
Exactly. And you look at some of the great receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, they haven't made the playoffs the last 2 years. A.J. Green, you can go down the line. Calvin Johnson when he played. Now, I love Odell. I want to keep him if I'm the Giants, and I believe John Mara wants to keep him because he came off more exasperated and disappointed in Odell than he did angry with him. Yeah. And I get it. Because you got this guy who's had these bouts of immaturity. Obviously, the tape that came out, it doesn't look good. And if I'm an owner, I can understand having a problem giving a long-term deal to a guy that's behaved the way he has, and he's coming off injury. And like you said, the Giants have the hammer. I can just let you play this year and franchise you next year and even going forward from there.
But the leverage that Odell has is this.
Sitting out.
Well, the leverage Odell has is, how's Eli looks without me? How about the year before I got there, and how about last year when I wasn't there? How's he looked? Oh, he's been awful.
He didn't look great with you either.
Well, but what he did look was better than his career average. What he did look was, in my eyes, the best Eli's ever looked was Odell's first and second year there. Like, Eli, the year before Odell got there, threw 27 picks, had a passer rating dead last in football at 69. Last year, he had a passer rating of 80, which was not in the top 20 in the NFL. Like, Odell is the guy that changed, that to me, salvaged the last part of Eli's career. I don't know how much leverage that gives him because the Giants have the money leverage, but you're not better off trading Odell Beckham Jr. for trying to win this season. Now, if you were trying to get drafted, because you're not going to trade him for a player, you're going to trade him for a pick. That pick's going to take time. If you want to go that route and draft Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, whoever your quarterback is, then that's fine. But then you really...
Ideally, you want to draft one of them to play with Odell Beckham in the future.
If it works.
And you just have to get him, like, I agree with your contract, the incentive-laden deal. If he'll do that, I'm all for it. What if he doesn't? That's the issue. I don't want to trade him now when his value is lower than ever. He's had these issues off the field.
Right.
He's coming off an injury. I'd want to, if I have to trade him, I want to do it later after he's proven he's the same OBJ on the field.
John Mara got peppered with these questions when the draft is coming up. This market in New York is the worst market for a guy that's got off-the-field distractions because that's all you hear about. That's all you're asked about. That's all you talk about. And if there is a team that doesn't want any of that, that's John Mara in this organization. And that's what right now you would get with Odell Beckham. All right, to the Golden State Warriors now. Let's switch gears a bit. In a range of emotion on Friday. So they got Steph Curry back on the court after that ankle sprain. They were thrilled for like a half a second. And then they lost Steph Curry, again, this time with an MCL sprain. He's out at least 3 weeks. Same injury he suffered in the 2016 playoffs, by the way. Steve Kerr spoke last night on Steph's timetable to return.
Well, there's no way he's playing the first round. And we also know that Steph has a history of coming back strong from injuries. So there's a good chance if all goes well, he comes back during the playoffs at some point, and we're at full steam.
Mentally, for me, staying positive, staying upbeat. Hopefully, I prove what Coach said wrong and put myself in a position to get back as soon as possible. But right now, who knows? Just try to do my job in the rehab process and get back as soon as I can.
Chris, normally you'd say you have KD on your team. What are you worried about? Steph Curry is out, and all of a sudden everyone's very concerned about how far this Warriors team can go. How worried are you?
The worry is that even though you have KD, Clay, and Draymond Green and some other great role players, the system is built for Steph Curry. That's why one reason LeBron's team struggles so badly when he leaves, because the system is built around him. So that being the case, they're not the same team without him. Even though they have great talent, they play at a much slower pace. They win by a very small margin. They don't score nearly as many points. Draymond is not the same player. Defensively, of course, but offensively, he's not the same threat without Steph. And I don't think Clay is either. They play like most other teams where KD's creating everything and playing well, but they're just not as impressive and as unbeatable as they are with Steph. So I think they should be very concerned because you are going to have a tough first-round matchup. God forbid it's OKC without Steph. But Utah would be tough. What if San Antonio has Kawhi Leonard? What if Minnesota should have Jimmy Butler and you meet them? I would pick the Warriors. They're the favorite, whoever they play in the first round. But there's a small chance, a decent chance, they could maybe be upset.
If this Warriors team loses in the first round, with everyone there except Steph Curry, that is a bigger indictment than I could possibly imagine on Kevin Durant. Maybe I can't believe I'm in the position here where I'm going to defend Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is too good for a team with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and home court advantage and Steve Kerr as the coach and Iggy and Livingston and West coming off the bench to lose in the first round. Like I've heard all year long, KD might be the best player in the league. Okay, if he's not the best player in the league, he's definitely the second best player in the league. Well, I watched LeBron, the guy KD is closest to, in 2015, lose Kevin Love. and go and beat a 50-win Bulls team, then play a 60-win Hawks team without Kevin Love and with Kyrie Irving only playing 40 minutes that whole series because of the knee, and they swept them. Now, they lost in the finals. Totally justifiable. And if this Warriors team doesn't have Steph and they lose in the Western Conference Finals to the Rockets, who are awesome, listen, that happens. Like, the Rockets, I think, could theoretically beat the Warriors fully healthy. So you're not going to crush KD for that. But the idea that the Warriors all of a sudden, we'll understand it if they don't get out of the first round.
Nobody's saying I'm with you. It would be a serious indictment on KD.
If the year that KD left Oklahoma City, if instead of leaving Oklahoma City, Sam Presti had traded Steven Adams and Russ for Clay, Draymond, Iggy, Sean Livingston, David West, guess what? Then Durant's OKC team should be the favorite in the West. They should at least be the second-best team in the West without Steph Curry. That's what I expect them to be.
None of those guys are Russ.
I understand. I get it. I understand that. That's what I would expect them to be.
I'm with you. They should win.